Hi viewers, welcome to NCKHUB Consulting and Training. As part of our Java 8 playlist, in this video we will be discussing on the date and time API, which was newly introduced as part of Java 8. And this is basically termed as internationalization because this date and time APIs, which were introduced as part of Java 8, will enable us in dealing with all the specific time zones that are available currently, and we can play around within different time zones using the zone IDs and with respect to all the times that are available. So because of this additional features that were inbuilt in this particular new APIs, we call this as internationalization as well. Okay, before deep diving into the new APIs that were introduced as part of Java 8, what are all the APIs that are existing before Java 8? And basically, what are the drawbacks that made the Oracle team to bring the new APIs as part of Java 8? Let us try to understand a little deeper. So, before Java 8, date class in Java packages are available in two packages. What are those two packages? Java.util.class, sorry, Java.util package, and also Java.sql package. So basically, the date classes are available from these two packages, but the formatting and parsing classes are available from java.text package, which is completely different from these two. Moreover, the date class from util package supports both date and time, but do not support any time zone. So when there is a support for the time zone only, we can go across multiple time zones that are available currently, and we can play around and come up with a specific logic, or else it will be difficult in case of the internationalization concepts. Whereas the date class that is available in SQL package will support only date, and it doesn't have any support with respect to the time and time zone. And also, more particularly, there are no specific classes for time as well as timestamp, or we don't have anything specifically zone or zone specific IDs as such. This is one more drawback. And also, we have only support for date format. Only that alone is used for parsing and formatting. There is no other support with respect to the formatting and parsing as well. And the major important thing is all the existing date classes which are available from Java util package and Java SQL package, those are basically mutable classes and they are not thread safe. And for this thread safe thing, we have an example here to show you out. So this is the old API example. Okay, in this particular example, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create multiple date classes, objects in the case of multi-threading, where we have 5 threads and each thread will be creating something specific to the date task. Okay, so this is the task that we have, and in this particular task we are trying to create a date, and we are trying to pass something for this particular date format. So in line number 18 we declared a date format, and this particular date format is being used in line number 22, wherein we are trying to parse a particular string input which is passed. Here I have passed it as 20101022. So as per the format that we have given here, it should be 2010 and 10 and 22. It should be the date. Okay, so what I'm trying to do here is I am just creating a pool of 5 threads, and each thread will try to make a call to this particular task, and this particular task has to be executed. Now I'll try to execute this particular one, and we will see the difference in the results. Okay, so the very first execution here, we can see the errors. So we did not get any output. Now I'll try to execute again. The second execution, see, I have one particular thread executed. So I'll just try to repeat this. See, now we are not seeing any errors here. So now the particular program has been executed, and all the threads that we have created so far, those threads has been executed. successfully. I mean, all the threads has executed the task which I have created on line number 20 successfully, and for all the threads I have got the output. Now let me try to execute it again and see how it works. We will not get the response again. So basically this is not thread safe, as multiple threads are trying to execute the same task in parallel. There are some ambiguities happening, and because of those ambiguities we were not able to see the output every time. Now if I try to execute this multiple times, we might see the output again. Let me show you again. So this is the fourth time I'm hitting. Last time in the second attempt itself I got all the output. Now this is the sixth attempt I'm doing, but still no response. I mean, when I say no response, not everything is executed. But if you see here on the top, we are still seeing some outputs. So it depends. This is a major problem where, because of not having the thread safety, the outputs are not coming accurate. At particular instance, we are seeing multiple threads being executed, but not all threads being executed. So hope we are clear on the thread safe perspective and why the um, immutable concept has come into picture here when it comes to the Java 7 date classes. Now let us go back to the presentation where we have the Java 8 related things. Okay, now what are the principles of the Java 8? So Java 8 data time API, which was introduced, was a particular implementation followed, which is a JSR 310 implementation. It was basically designed to overcome all the flaws in the legacy datetime implementations, which were still there before Java 8. Okay, the next class the next feature we have here is the very first one is the immutability, which we have seen a little while ago. What is the problem that we are facing in case of multi-threaded environment, and how we are seeing the exceptions, errors, those kind of thing when a task is being executed in parallel by multiple threads. Okay, this particular date and time API, which was introduced as part of Java 8, we will be giving a very good solution for the immutable part, and it is good now to execute the program with Java 8. Now, then the next thing we have is separation of concerns. So, separation of concerns in the sense, earlier we discussed like there is no different classes available for the time, there is no different classes available for the timestamp, time zone, and other things. But whereas in Java 8, we can see a lot of classes created for date, time, local date, local time, and time zone related things. So, for each and every functionality, we have different classes created, and each class will have the similar kind of methods so that there will not be any confusion or ambiguity or anything else. Okay, so that is the next point, clarity, and perform the same actions. These methods are clearly defined and perform the same actions across all the classes. Okay, and the next feature that we have is the parsing mechanism and the formatting mechanism. So the new APIs that were provided has a powerful date time formatter classes, enabling precise parsing and formatting of both date and times. So you can use this formatting facility for formatting dates, or you can format the times. Both you can do. The very good and very important thing that was introduced here is the time zone handling. So this particular APIs have introduced the zone ID as well as ZonedDate class, which will facilitate the accurate time zone conversions and calculations, which is not available in the previous versions of the Java. Whereas in from Java 8, we can see these specific features where we can use the zone IDs, where a particular zone is associated with one particular zone ID, and that will help us in making the conversions as well as the calculations accordingly. And this particular new APIs will still support the existing legacy APIs and provide the functionality in converting the date values with the java.util.Date to the new classes called LocalDate. In the similar way, the times whatever they have in the new APIs, they can still be used, and convert legacy things can be converted to the new API dates as well and times as well. So these are some basic things that principles that we have as part of our Java 8 date and time API. Now we will see everything in action one by one. So before that, the next slide here we have are some of the important classes that we have for the new APIs. The very first one is the local date. I mean, there are a lot many classes introduced as part of these APIs, but I have handpicked few of them, which is very frequently used in case of the programming concepts, and which a developer has to be very well aware of. It's not that we can cover everything in a single video, but we tried our max to get the top priority ones covered as part of this video. The very first class we have here is the local date class. So let us go with the local date. Let me close other things. Okay, so the very first method we have here is the local date dot now method, which is used for getting the current date or today's date. Okay, this is the very first method that we have with local date. So this particular local date class is used for representing a date without any time zone in the format of YYYYMMDD. Okay. So we'll go deep dive into each and the most frequently used methods from the local date class. The very first method we have here is local date dot now, which is used for getting the today's date or the current date. And the next method that we have here is to how to create the local date object by providing some values of the variables. So there are two ways that we can create it. The very first way is creating the local date object by giving year, month, and date. And the second method is again the same year, month, and date, but the month wise we can follow a specific temporal adjusters. So by providing these particular enums. So this is a month which is separate class which is part of java.time package, and using this also we can pass the month name. Okay, and this is how I created the objects or variable objects for local date using the values by passing those values as inputs. And the next thing we have here is creating the object by giving some inputs and telling to create an object from a epoch date. So as per the Java standards, so what is the epoch date here means, so 01/01/1970 is the epoch date, and the value that we are passing in as part of this input will be considered as number of dates from this particular date. 01/01/1970 is the right. So from this particular date, 8 days from this particular date will be considered as the output. With that particular date, the object will be created here. Like if you change the value here, accordingly the dates will vary. Okay, the input whatever we are here, giving here is the days that will be considered from this particular date. Okay, while we execute the program, I'll try to change the value of this, and we will see the change in the values as well. Okay, and this is the way we can create a local date object by telling the JVM compiler to JVM to create an object for a particular nth day of a year. In this particular example, what I'm trying to do is I'm asking the JVM to create an object for a 120th day of the year 2024. Okay, and the next method that we have is the parsing method. So here I'm just passing a string value and I'm trying to parse it. This is a default parsing. And the next method that I have tried here is the giving a pattern, which is a formatter, and date time formatter. This is a class that we have in Java 8, which is used for doing the formatting with the specific patterns that we provide as an input. And by this particular class, I am declaring a format here, and after declaring the format here, I am trying to parse this particular value use for taking this particular formatter as a reference, and I'm trying to print the output. Okay, this is how I do for the parsing and the formatting. And the above example is the default one, and the below one is a upgraded one, which is trying to parse the date using the formatter. Okay, and the next one we have here is the same formatter. With this particular format, we are trying to just convert it into it. Local date, whatever we created earlier, right? The very first one, today's date. I'm just trying to convert that particular one into a string using the formatter that I have created earlier. So that is one thing. And the last methods that we have here is we have a facility to add the years and as well as subtract the years. Similar way, we can add months to the date and subtract months to the date from the date, and also we can add days to the date and also subtract days from the date. So lot of features here. You are allowed to add years, months, and days to the particular date, and also subtract a particular from a particular date. You can subtract months, years, as well as days. So I just took couple of examples. I did not cover everything. I tried to add years to a particular date and also subtract months from a particular date. Okay, now these are all the methods that I have implemented for local date. Now I'll try to execute this program. So the very first one, if you see today's date, this is 2024 12/26. This is the day I'm trying to record this video, and this is the date that we have. And the very first one is I'm trying to pass the inputs. 2022 I passed in as a year input, 8th month and 12th day. So these are the inputs I have passed, and I have got the object created with this particular date. And the second one, I am passing the year as 2022, month as April, and day as 4th. So here I got the second object. And epoch date, as I mentioned earlier, I have passed the input as 8. 8 means 8 days. 8 days from 01/01/1970. So eighth date would, after 8 days, then the next date would be the ninth date. So that's the reason I got it as 09/01/1970. But here the default formatting will be YYYYMMDD. So that's the reason it is showing in a reverse way. But for our understanding, to be clear, 01/01/1970 plus 8. So the ninth day will be coming here as the output. Okay, and the next thing is 120th day of the year. So I passed in 2024 as the year number and 120th day. So 120th day of that particular is 29th April. So that's the reason it created an object with the date 29 April 2024. The next one we have is the parsing. So it's a default parsing and we got the default output. There is no change in it. And the next one we have is I passed in the input as 06 February 2024, and it was passed into a particular date as 2024 02/06. Okay. The next one is today's date is should be converted into a string using the formatter. So today's date is 2024 12/26, and the formatter I have here is DMMMMYY. So 26 December 24. Okay, based on the formatter, today's date was converted into a string. Okay, the next thing we have here is plus years. So I try to add 3 years to the current date. So what is today's date? 2024 12/26. Adding 3 years to this would be 2024 plus 3 2027. So the plus years output is 2027 12/26. And similar way minus months. So how many months I subtracted from the date? 3 months. So if you see the current date is 2024 12/26, and the month of the current month is December, and minusing it 12 minus 3 9. So it went to the ninth month. What is the date here? 2024 9/26. So this is how we will be able to handle the local date part, and these are all the ways that some of the ways that we can use for creating object. Multiple ways like passing multiple values, variables, and some other additional ways that we can create the object. Once the local date object is created, how do we format it, how do we parse it with the default parsing, and using a specific formatter, how do we parse it, and after that how can we modify the date by adding something to it, either with respect to years or months or days, or by subtracting from the date, like how many years or months or day. These are the various ways that we can follow in making it possible. So hope we are clear with respect to the local date example. Now, as I mentioned earlier, one particular thing I need to do here, I'll just try to make it as 800, and I'll try to execute the program again. So the value of date 3 should change now compared to the earlier. So the value of date 3 is 1972-03-11. Earlier it is 1970-01-09. Now 1972-03-11, which means it was trying to calculate 800 days from 1970 January 1st, and then so it's been more than 2 years, because for a year we'll have 365 days. 365 plus 365, it would be around 750 odd, 700 odd, and accordingly additionally I gave 100 days more, 800 days, right? So it comes around somewhere 1972 03 11. So if I increase the value again, it will change. Let me make it 8000. Now let me try to execute it again. So now if you see 1991, it's more than 20 years. Okay, so 1991, 11/27. So that's how it is. This is not much important. The major takeaway from here is how to create a local date example by just getting the today's date, or how do we create local date object for a particular date by passing in the values, and how do we do the formatting, parsing using a customized formatter or default parsing, and how do we change the dates. So these are the key takeaways for this particular example. So the next example we have here is local time. So represents time without a date. Local date will handle the date without any time or time zone, but local time will handle the time without any date. So that's the difference between these two. Now let us go to local time example. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, methods are more or less the same. So local time dot now. So since the methods are more or less the same, I don't want to take more time. I'll just go through the example, as the methods are almost identical. So the very first one is current time, the exact time which is now, that particular time, using the now method. Similarly, by using the dot of method, by passing some values as inputs, we can create local time object. So these are the two ways that I passed. First one is I just passed hours, minutes, and seconds. Here, the second one I passed the nanoseconds as well. And default pattern, default parsing. So here, this particular one is the default parsing, and after that, we have a formatting here as well. So this is the customized formatting, and I am passing these particular, but I'm using these particular time values, and I'm just trying to calculate the difference between those two. Okay, so this is something different compared to the earlier example, but this is the way we can do. We have a facility here where we can calculate the difference as well. Here we can do the comparisons as well between the times, which one is but before one, which one is after. So we have a method for that as well, is before, which will compare the two times, and it will let us know whether it is before or not. So those kind of features were also there. So just to show you that particular feature, I took this particular example. And after that, again, if you see the default, I mean the formatter, whatever I have created in line number 28, the same formatter is being used for converting the current time to a string. So we have seen this similar one in local date as well. Then nothing much different here. And similarly here for there we have added the months, years, and days to a particular date. Here we have an option to add hours, minutes, and seconds. Okay, similar way how I tried date and months over there. Here I tried hours and adding hours to a particular time and subtracting hours from a particular time. So this is what I have done for this particular example. Let me try to execute this. So the current time is 23:59:21, and by default it will bring up the nanoseconds as well. And when you pass the values and create a local time object, if you pass the nanoseconds value, it will be taken, or else it will not be taken. And that is the difference between the second and third. If you see time 1 and time 2, so that's the difference. For time 1 we passed the only hours, minutes, and seconds. We did not pass the nano ones. And for the time 2 we passed everything. That's where we got it. And for time 3 it's a parsing of the current time. I mean, we took the time as input and we tried to parse it. It's a default parsing and we got the value. And the fourth one here is we just took couple of time values and we gave a formatter here, customized formatter, and we tried to convert those two things by parsing it, and then we tried to compare the times to see which one is before. So that's where we got the output here. After that, we converted the time to a string. So the current time is 23:59. And while it comes to the string, it came only 4 characters. All the others were truncated because the formatter that we have here is HHMM, only those two. That's the reason we got only 23:59. We did not get others. And the last two, like we tried to add hours to a particular time, 12 hours, and we tried to subtract 12 hours. So this is what we have. When we subtract 12 and add 12, it will be, the time will be almost identical. And to have you a difference, what I can do is I can just change these values. I'll just add 10 hours and then I'll subtract. Calendar time will always be the same, so that will not have any impact. So this is the where you can see. Okay, so hope we are clear with respect to the local time as well. I mean, there is no much difference between local date and local time. As we discussed earlier, the methods are almost identical. The next one we have here is local date time, which will represent both the date and time without any time zone. So local date, it deals only with the date. Local time, it don't deals only with the time. Local date time, it deals with both date and time, but there will not be any time zone. Okay. So this is the example for local date and the time without a time zone. Let me close others. Okay. So the methods are almost identical. There are very minor differences which I try to cover here. So local date and time, the normal thing that we have is the now method, which will get the current timestamp. If you want to get a timestamp for a particular specific zone, you can still pass the zone ID as an input and get the timestamp for specific time zone. That particular facility is there here. Okay. And we have different ways for creating the time zone. So like passing years, month, days, hours, minutes, seconds, nanoseconds. Similar way here also there is a difference in the way we passed the month. And in this particular example we did not pass the nanoseconds, we passed only till seconds. The last one is truncated. And in this particular one, if you see, we passed only till minutes. We did not even pass the seconds also. So that's another thing. And the combination of local date and local time. So if you see this particular example, local date, we are creating an object, and by local time, we are creating an object by passing in the values. And we are trying to club both here, local date and time, local date time of. So we are passing the object, local date object here, local time object here. This is another way that we can create an object for local date and time by using both the combination of local date object and local time object. And similar way for the earlier examples, how we used the formatters. So we can still follow the customized formatting and we can still convert the current to timestamp as part of those formattings. All those are there. And after that, we have here plus or minus things. So here we can do year wise, month wise, days wise, hours, minutes, seconds, everything. Combination of both, right? Local date and time. So whatever is allowed in date, whatever is allowed in time, both will be allowed here. So that's the reason I tried one for year, one for minutes, one for hours. I did not cover everything others, but still there are options that you can do. So what and all can be covered is years, months, days, hours, minutes, seconds. So all these can be covered. Okay, let me try to execute this program. See, we got the output for our current timestamp and then UTC timestamp. So there is a difference between current timestamp and the UTC timestamp. Okay, and then with the inputs whatever we gave, we are getting the corresponding output in almost. So we have used almost one, two, three, four objects were created by passing the values as inputs. We got the output for all those four objects, and after that we tried to create a local date and a local time, and combination of that we got a local date and time object, and then using the formatter, and then we tried to do the plus and minus operations for the last three. So this is the formatter because that's the reason we are seeing AM PM here. So this is the AM. Okay. So and the last three, if you see, we did plus hours, plus minutes, and plus years. So for plus years, 2024 plus 2, 2026. So this is something that we can do. And the very first one, if you see plus hours, so I gave input as 50. 50 means almost 2 days later. So that's the reason today's on the day I'm trying to record this video is 27th December. 2 days after this would be 29th December. So these are some operations that we have with the local date time class. So local date time class is a combination of local date and local time. Hope we are clear so far. Let us go to the next one, zone date time. So this is used to handle time zone specific dates and times. Earlier one local date time, it will handle with the date and time but no time zone. But zone date time will handle time zone specific dates and times. So all the things are combined here. Let me open the example for that. So this is also similar. The only thing is we have a time zone specific things available here. Apart from that, there is nothing much difference. So the methods are more or less the same. The only thing here is the time zone specific thing added apart from the earlier thing. Apart from there is nothing additionally. I'm just trying to execute this particular one. See, if you see in the output, we will be getting the time zone as well. Asia, Calcutta. Okay, and GMT plus 0530, UTC plus 1000. So these are all the time zones additionally that we have in the output. From programmatic perspective, you don't see any difference apart from instead of local date time, we will be using zone date time. That's all, nothing much difference will be there. But when you see in the output perspective, you will see a difference because in the output you will be seeing the zone as well. In the program perspective, instead of local date time, you will be seeing zoned date time. That's all. Nothing much difference. The methods will be almost same. Inputs will be almost same. Only thing would be like you will be passing in zone ID also as input when you use dot off method. Whereas in local date time, you will be passing only till nanoseconds. There won't be any option to pass the zone ID. But whereas for zone date time, you have an additional input along with all the other things. Zone ID also will be passed. So that particular zone ID will decide in which specific time zone you are trying to create the object. Apart from that, everything is similar compared to the local date time. Hope we are clear. Let me try to execute this program another time. Yeah, so this is what we have for local date, sorry, zoned date time. The next one we have is the period class. So period class is used to modify the values of a given date and to get the difference between the dates and also modify the date based on the time. Okay. So here is the example for the period class. So here we have two dates, start local date and end local date. So period object is created and this period object will be difference between the local start date and end date. Okay. So this is the period between these two dates and from this particular period we can get the days, months, years. Okay. And yeah, and also here we have another option like a period of. So this is another way we can create the object for the periods. So basically what you can do is you can get the difference between the dates and you can modify the things accordingly and also you can modify the dates as well by using the time. This is how we can use the periods class. Sorry, period class. Let me try to execute this. So period class is used to do something on a particular date and identify the difference between the dates, like how many days are there, how many months are there, how many years are there, and if you want to add something to a particular date you can do that. You can, if you want to subtract something from a particular date, you can do that by passing number of months, by passing number of years, by passing number of days using the period class. Okay, that is the advantage or uses of the period class. Okay, and the next class that we have here is the duration class. The duration class is almost similar to the period class, but only difference between period class and a duration class is period class will be operated on date object. Okay, so if you want to modify something on the date object or value of the date, or compare two different dates, you use period. But whereas duration, if you want to make something or modify something on the time value, then or if you want to calculate the difference between two time values, when I say time values, the values that you create using the local time class, in those cases you go for the duration class. So basically, duration class is used for modifying something on the time value and also calculating the difference between the time values and make something as per the requirement. Okay. So let us see the example for the duration class. So local time 1 and time 2, and I have created duration as 5 hours and I tried to add time 1 plus these 5 hours and created a class for time 2. And here in this one I'm just trying to get the gap between the time 1 and time 2. So here I just created a duration object and then I tried to modify the time 1 by adding some hours to it, and using that I created a time 2 object and then I tried to calculate the difference between the time 1 and time 2. So this is how we can use the duration class for making something on the time values. So period classes on dates and duration classes on time. And the last point that we have as part of our today's video is temporal adjustment. So basically, this temporal adjustment is used to perform various date related operations. So how do we perform specific date related operations? Let us see an example in action. Okay. So this particular example will deal the temporal adjustment operations that are related to dates. So the very first thing, I created a local date using a date object using local date dot now, and this is the date that I have created. So what using this particular date, what I'm trying to do here is first day of the next month. So I'm asking the JVM to give me what is the first day of next month. How am I doing it? Using the temporal adjusters. So temporal adjusters is a class in java.time.temporal package. So this particular temporal adjuster class has a method called first day of next month. So what I am trying to do here is for this particular date using taking this particular date as reference which is created on line number 11, I am asking the JVM take this particular date as reference and give me what is the first day of next month. So I am not telling the JVM this is the month. I am not giving input. I am telling like this is the date that I have. For this particular date, I want what is the first day of next month. Okay. So this for that I'm just creating a object here. So I'm just trying to print it. Okay, this is one facility that we have with temporal adjusters. And the next one we have is what is the next Saturday for this particular date. For the date reference, whatever I am taking, what is the next Saturday? I want to know what is the date that is going to be next Saturday with reference to the date that I have here. So for that functionality also, we can use the temporal adjusters. It's not only for Saturday. I just took the example as Saturday. You are free to use any kind of day you want. Similarly, we have methods like first day of current month, first last day of current month. There are many more values. I mean, there are many more methods in temporal adjusters. If you would like to play around, you can just go through it and play around. See, these are all the day methods that we have in temporal adjust. So I cannot create example for each and every method. So randomly, I have to a few methods to make you aware of what is the major advantage of temporal adjuster class. But you can just play around all these methods if you wish to take it up. Sorry. Let me try to execute this program. See, this is the current date and the first day of next month. It is 2025-01-01. And next Saturday from now is 2024-12-28. First day of this month, 2024-12-01. The last day of this month, 2024-12-31. So just to give you an example, I have taken this particular one, but in a real-time scenarios, we get the dates from a particular source. Very rarely we do these operations on the current date. Okay, so we get the dates from database or some external file systems or some servers or wherever it is. So on those particular dates, if you want to perform some kind of operations in this manner, you definitely need to understand what is temporal adjusters and how can we use them clearly in getting these values during the execution. Yep, I think so. I have covered pretty much with respect to date and time API with respect to Java 8, and I hope everybody is clear so far. That's all for today. Thank you. Please feel free to provide any comments if you wish to give us.